Held back from reinventing yourself by procrastination? In this video, I'll give you 15 tips to move you from procrastination to action. How's it going, Reinventors? I'm Amelia. This is Reinventing You, the channel where you can be inspired to take your own reinventing journey so that you can live a life of joy, fulfillment, and purpose. If you are new here, please know that I post twice a week and I invite you to subscribe. If you are a repeat viewer or a reinventor yourself, please don't forget to share this video with others who are dealing with some form of procrastination in their own lives. Now, as you can tell, if you've watched any of my videos, this is a little bit different, the setting that I am in during this series. And this series is about reinventing yourself and some of the things that keep you from reinventing yourself. This was inspired by one of the viewers who made a comment, and I've just really followed a lot of the questions that she had, realizing that these are topics that need to be talked about when you're reinventing yourself. And I will tell you more about where I am at this lake house at the end of the video. So why do we procrastinate? If you'll watch this video up here, you will see that I have done this or tackled this series, tackled this subject before in a previous video. But I just want to say that one reason why we procrastinate is how we deal with stress. And when your brain has stress, whether it's good stress or bad stress, your brain says, okay, we need to either fight or flight. And a lot of times, especially in modern times, your brain realizes that the best thing to do is to fly away. And the way your brain helps you to fly away is to find ways to increase your dopamine. Now, your dopamine levels are usually increased when you're doing something pleasurable. So if you have a habit of surfing the internet or watching Instagram stories or reading or drinking or eating, all of those kinds of things, your brain says, okay, we need to find that habit, because that's what it is, to increase the dopamine levels so that we are not feeling the stress. And that is what happens when you are procrastinating. You are doing something else to remove you from the stress of doing whatever it is. Even if it's something positive in your life, it's still stressful. And your brain says, I've got to do something to change that. I've got to take us away from this situation, because your brain thinks you're in some kind of danger. Now, you and I know we're not in any kind of danger. In fact, a lot of times procrastination can be more dangerous for us. So I want us to talk about 15 tips or 15 ways that you can deal with procrastination. Now, these aren't in any order. You don't have to follow them in a certain way. And you don't have to follow all of them. But hopefully 1, 2, or more will help you to deal with your procrastination so that you can move into action. As I've said, these tips are in no particular order. So the first tip that I want to talk about is creating or adopting an action ritual. I've talked before about Mel Robbins' 5-second rule, to say to yourself 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just like a rocket ship. You take off and you do it no matter what. One of the reasons Mel Robbins created this plan was because of procrastination, but also procrastination that was brought on by anxiety and stress. So if that is helpful for you, you can try that. I've seen other people where they talk about maybe doing a count 3 countdown, or even just breathing, all of those things, just to kind of get you away from the mindset of, oh my gosh, I got to do something to increase my dopamine levels, and to simply get things done. So if you want to create some sort of action plan or ritual so that when you feel like, oh, I need to put this off or procrastinate about something, instead you will take the time to stop and continue on your journey. Now, I just realized my camera looks really crooked, so let me see if I can fix that. So the first tip, of course, is to have some sort of action ritual, something that you can do that gets you beyond it. It could be repeating your mantra, like, or your goal, or your one word, or something that keeps you focused. Some people have notes written on mirrors or on their computers just so that they can look at them and move away from whatever is distracting them. The second tip to keep you moving is do acknowledge your stress and anxiety. Do say, I am feeling stressed. The reason I can't get anything done, the reason I'm procrastinating is because I'm stressed. And I'm stressed about the coronavirus. I'm stressed about Black Lives Matter. I'm stressed about not having enough income. I'm stressed about my relationship with my spouse falling apart. These are the things that make me anxious. These are the things that are stressing me out. Sometimes if you just acknowledge what's bothering you, it can be the best thing to keep moving. So you know those things are there. You know that basically what you're doing may not help the situation immediately, but it really is going to make you feel better to keep working on whatever your goal is or the action item that you keep putting off. The third tip that I have is ignore your feelings, which a lot of times that's hard to do, but what happens a lot of times if you're procrastinating, you're feeling something. You're feeling a fear, or you're feeling a feeling of loss, or a feeling of grief, or a feeling of incompetency. A lot of times procrastination causes you to stop feeling that feeling. And what you have to do is, like I said before, you got to acknowledge, I'm stressed, I'm exhausted, I'm anxious, maybe I'm exhausted too, I am fearful, I am feeling lost, or I'm feeling like I'm not a good person, or whatever. You know, you kind of have to acknowledge that, but then you kind of have to ignore it. And that sometimes is easier said than done. Sometimes that works for some people, but not for others. So when I have all these tips for you, some of these may not work, but one of them is to ignore your feelings. The fourth tip, and I've just realized I didn't number these, so I'm hoping this is the fourth one, is to break down what you are procrastinating into small action steps that lead to your goals. Here's an example. I have this tendency to try to swallow the whole thing at one time. In other words, if I have to wash them, say I'm washing my car, you've got to wash your car, you keep putting it off. Instead of saying, I've got to scrub the wheels, and I've got to, put the 3M's formula on my lights because they're getting all covered up because the plastic does that. Anyway, that's another story. This is not a auto improvement channel. Anyway, instead of just saying I got to do all of this stuff, it's going to take me 2 hours to wash my car because I've got to scrub it down, and I got to clean the leather, and I got to vacuum and all this stuff. Break it down. What is one thing you can do? One of the things that was helpful for me sometime this past winter was I just need to vacuum out my car, and it was inside. I couldn't see anything, but when I actually pulled my car out, I think I couldn't reach something. Maybe it's the passenger side I could not reach, and everything else looked good. And then I pulled my car out in the daylight, and I looked, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can see a real difference. And all I did was spend like 5 minutes vacuuming, and it really made a difference on the driver's side, in the back seat. So a lot of times if you just break it down into little steps, instead of saying I got to spend 2 hours washing my car, just say, okay, today I'm going to do the windows. Today I'm going to do the tires. I'm going to vacuum this day. I'm going to clean the seats out. Sometimes it's just cleaning out underneath the seats, or in your console. All of those things are small action steps. They're going to get you where you are, but instead of feeling overwhelmed of the 2 hours you got to spend cleaning, you just simply do 1 or 2 small action steps this day, and then another day you can tackle something else, and you'll find eventually you'll get it all done. So the fifth tip to get over or deal with procrastination in your life is to have some kind of accountability. In our Reinventors world, you can join our private Facebook group. There is a link below for that. If there is another way that you can be accountable, maybe you have a counselor or a coach or a good friend that you trust who can keep you accountable to reach your goals, so that you know at the end of the day you've got to text your friend to let them know that you got so many pages of writing done. And if you don't get them done, or you don't text that person, they're going to contact you and say, hey, what about your 25 pages of writing? Did you get that done? Or your 1,000 words today, did you get that done? And you have an accountability partner that will keep you on the straight and narrow and prevent you from falling down the procrastination rabbit hole. I think this is the sixth tip, is having a reward system. And that is, if you do your work, if you do an action step, if you do something that moves you toward your goals, especially reinventing yourself, you reward yourself, even if it's a very small thing. That is so important. Celebration. It could be a glass of wine. It could be watching a television show. Maybe you know that part of your procrastination, or your method of procrastinating, is to get on YouTube and watch silly cat videos. But if you start that, it's going to, 2 hours later, you haven't done your project and it's the end of the day, and forget it. However, if you reward yourself, say, okay, first I'm going to, do this project that I need to do for work and get these things online. Then I'm going to reward myself with 30 minutes of watching funny cat videos on YouTube. You decide what your reward is going to be, but make sure you reward yourself for small accomplishments. And I got to count these out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Another thing is, and I kind of alluded to in the last thing about rewards, is to schedule or have a time limit. In other words, if you will put it on your calendar, if you will keep a bullet journal, if you will have some way to say, okay, these are the things that I accomplished. Maybe you're a list person. I'm a list person, and that's helpful for you. Now, with me, my problem with my lists is that they're too long. And so it's not really helpful for me. But maybe there's another method that you have found, maybe scheduling, maybe having a calendar for the day. And this is what I'm going to get accomplished. These 2 hours in the morning, I'm going to work on my online project. And then these 2 hours of the day, I'm going to work on cleaning out our attic. All of those things are things that you have on your schedule, and these are the things I have to do in these particular times. And a lot of times that has been helpful during the pandemic, is to have some sort of schedule. Otherwise, you don't get anything done, and it's total procrastination 24/7. I want to know if you use a schedule regularly. And if so, what kind of schedule? Do you use calendaring? Do you use bullet journaling? If you use a schedule, please in the comments below, let me know if you use a schedule, how that helps you keep accountable, how that prevents you from procrastinating, and what kind of schedule or method that you would recommend. Now, I have to be honest with you, I've tried bullet journaling, did not work. And I have really done a very poor job with my calendaring, because I use the excuse of the pandemic, but let me just say, it has not worked well for me. I need to get back to it. So let me know in the comments, that has been helpful for you? What kind of schedule has been helpful for you? The eighth way, or the eighth tip to stop being sidetracked from reinventing yourself, is to be goal-oriented. That is to think about, what is my goal? How can I reach that goal? What are the steps that I have to take? Is this something that is reaching my goal? Watching funny cat videos on YouTube is probably not part of your goal, unless your own goal is to make cat videos and post to YouTube and you're learning something, okay? So have a goal, and be ready to work on that goal and create your goal and establish your goal? Reach your goal. The ninth tip for stop procrastinating and reinvent yourself is to also have one focal point. I've talked about this before. Maybe you want to get healthy, but you can't just say, I'm going to get healthy. What does that mean? Does that mean physically healthy? Does that mean mentally healthy? Does that mean spiritually healthy, you've got to focus on that one thing. You will get sidetracked because one minute you'll be thinking, oh, I need to eat some broccoli today. And the next minute you think, I need to spend some time in meditation. And then the next minute you're thinking, oh, I need to call my counselor and set an appointment. I mean, you're just scattered. So not only do you have to be goal oriented, but you also got to be focused on one thing. Don't have 8 different things that you're trying to follow. You cannot do it. And what's going to happen? You're going to procrastinate and put it off. I think this is the 10th tip, is learning to say no. This is one thing I have the hardest time learning. If somebody asks you, hey, would you do this for me? Will you help me with this project? Will you make these phone calls? Will you send me these things in the mail? Sometimes you just have to say no. No, this is not what I'm working on right now. Because you know you're going to use whatever it is that they've asked you to do. It's going to be a form of procrastination. So learn to say no. So repeat after me. No. No. I know it's hard, but you can do it. No. The next tip to stop procrastinating is to stop being busy. Just because you're busy does not mean you're getting anything done. Just because you're busy does not mean you're reaching your goals. Just because you're busy does not mean you're doing your thing. You could be doing something that benefits somebody else. Busyness is a form of procrastination. In other words, you have a major project that you are involved with. You're working from home. But instead of sitting down at the computer and working on the project, which is stressing you out, you start cleaning the kitchen. You start making fig preserves, which is something I'm doing right now. The fig tree is ripe. However, that is a form of procrastination. You're busy, you're getting things done, but they have nothing to do with the project that your boss wanted you to get done. You have got to stop using busyness. And sure, writing correspondence may be great, and doing some research for another project is great. It's all busyness, and you're just putting off what you really need to accomplish. This is especially bad when you're trying to reinvent yourself. You will find all kinds of things to be busy with, but is it really helping you to reinvent yourself? Probably not. Stop procrastinating by being busy. The 12th tip that I have for you is don't put it off. Don't put it off. Do one thing instead. Oh, sometimes I don't understand my notes. Don't put it off. Do one thing instead. What that means is sometimes, like if you have a project and you're putting off because it's stressing you out, what if you took the project steps, the things you have to do. One of the things that you have to do for the project is to set up an Excel sheet. That's the first step. Just do that one thing. Do that one thing. You don't have to do the whole project. Just get that one thing done. A lot of times that will get you out of the mindset of thinking whatever that you're putting off is so overwhelming. If you are reinventing yourself and you know that the first thing you have got to do is to figure out what you're reinventing and you keep putting it off, then just work on that one thing. Work on, just sitting down and say, okay, where am I right now? Why am I thinking of reinventing myself? What needs to happen in my life? And where do I need to start? I mean, that one thing, just sitting down and doing that means you've done the one thing. So instead of putting off, do one simple thing, one just basic thing, not to complete whatever it is your goal is or your project is, but just do the one thing. It really will help you to stop procrastinating. The 13th tip is, do you have a fear of failure? Now, I'm going to be having a video soon, and once I've done it, I'll put it below in the description, but I'm going to be doing a video soon all about the fear of failure and why that keeps us from reinventing ourselves. But what I want to just say in this video is to keep going anyway. I talked about earlier about your feelings. A lot of times fear is such an overwhelming fear fear is such an overwhelming feeling. It will stop you even if it seems like the most basic. I mean, maybe even if all those other emotions don't stop you, the feeling of fear will. But all I can tell you right now is just to keep going. Don't let fear be the cause of your procrastination from reinventing yourself. The 14th tip that I have for you is to sync your time with your goals. And somebody else, I did not come up with that. Somebody else did. And I've done so much research on these videos. I don't know who came up with that, but look at your schedule. I talked about scheduling earlier. Look at your schedule, your calendar, your days. What are you spending your time doing? Is that syncing up with your goals? Is whatever you're doing matching what you want to accomplish? Is what you're doing actually moving you forward to reinventing yourself? And if not, I think it's time to take a look at, see, what are you really spending your time doing and how can you change that? Because I think also what happens is if we are not doing what helps us moving toward reinventing ourselves, then we tend to procrastinate. It's like this never-ending cycle. You procrastinate, you don't reinvent yourself, you don't reinvent yourself, you procrastinate. So a lot of times we just have to say, okay, wait a minute, is my time syncing up with my goals? How am I using my time toward my goals, toward reinventing myself? And, oh man, I'm spending a lot of time procrastinating. I think you'll find that you really are. I know, looking at my schedule, that is what I have done. And let me tell you, being in the middle of this pandemic has not helped any. Now, the last tip, the 15th tip to help you move from procrastination to action is begin with getting stuff done. That is the biggest thing. Just get stuff done. Whether it's a small step, 2 or 3 steps, something, writing down your goal, articulating your goal, meeting with a counselor or coach. Just get stuff done. The more you get stuff done that moves you toward reinventing yourself, the less likely you're going to be procrastinating. You may still have all those feelings. You may still have all those excuses. Your brain may still think, oh my God, I've got to do something to increase your dopamine levels. But if you just start getting stuff done, it is going to help you so much. I hope these 15 tips were helpful for you. And as I said before, why am I filming from the lake house? The reason I'm filming from the lake house is eventually my husband and I will retire here because like I have retired early, but he's retiring in another year. This is the house we bought like over 20 years ago. It needs so much work. So this next year we're going to be doing that and getting it kind of up to par. It's livable, but it's got some ways to go. So I will be filming during this Reinventing Yourself series from different places from the lake. If you're part of my Facebook group, be watching for a reveal. I'm going to be taking you on a tour of the lake house. Otherwise, if you're on this channel watching, you'll see bits and pieces of the lake house as you go. Eventually, I will do a before and after video, but it's going to be a while. So I don't want to be a big reveal here on this channel. However, if you have not subscribed, I invite you to do that. If you are already subscribed, I'm asking you to share this video and anybody can like this video. I appreciate your support. Don't put it off today. Turn your procrastination into action and reinvent yourself. Have a great one.